Here's my quick video on Unreal Engine 5.7 and the features it brings. This version was released November 12th, and I updated my project last week, and after playing with it for about a week, I can say that this version of the engine feels amazing. It's probably their best version of the engine so far. Key highlights of this version is that it just performs way better. You can feel it's a lot faster, and it just feels a lot more stable. Very little crashes. You could just tell it handles the scenes a whole lot better, a whole lot faster. So I think that's the big thing with this engine. It's just more stable. This is actually the first time I've updated so quickly to an engine version. Normally I'll wait a month or until there's a hot fix, but with this one I heard a lot of good things. I just wanted to give it a try, and before I knew it I was in it, rocking and rolling and feeling great about the change. One big aspect with updating your projects is having all of the engine plugins updated to the new version, and when I checked out the Fab store marketplace, all of the plugins I use were updated. So I was able to port my project over much quicker than usual. A lot of times I'm waiting on a plugin or something. So let's hop right into it. Unreal Engine 5.7 is available. Here is my project, and I'm on 5.7. So I'm going to hit this with the perspective of a solo developer that's making a large open world game, and the features that are largely important to me and what helps me as a solo developer. What I like to do is go to the roadmap, which I have up here, and just go through the things in 5.7 and call out interesting tidbits. And then if anything applies to my project, I'll load it up and show off some parts of it in my project. First thing they have listed here is Megalights beta, and with 5.7, Megalights enter beta mode from experimental, which is a nice jump. Megalights are great for projects that use tons and tons of dynamic lights in the scene. My project does not. I am sticking with one directional light in my open world, and that's about it. So I am not turning this feature on for this current project. This should be a great feature. They have a nice demo scene with tons of Niagara drones that fly around, each with like 3 lights attached. So there's like 300 dynamic lights in a scene, and it runs at high frame rate. So it looks very promising. Heterogeneous volumes. This update focused on improving volumetric shadowing. I still believe these are a bit performance heavy. They look super awesome and a great way to enhance a scene. In most cases, I still think this effect is largely for cinematics. Substrate is now production ready and is enabled by default when starting new projects in 5.7. I was not using Substrate previously. When I ported my project into 5.7, it did not turn on Substrate automatically, which I believe is a very good thing. I was a little nervous about that. I was afraid my materials would need a lot of fixing, but I did turn it on just to test and see what would happen, and I have not had to fix a single material. They have it all set up so your current materials flow into the Substrate node and behave just as they did before, but now you can edit materials with the new Substrate features, and you could take advantage of what Substrate has to offer. So I have not really messed around with it, but you can see somewhat the same as the old node. But then we also have all this Substrate stuff down here. Previous to enabling Substrate, this was blank. So there's a bit to play around with and learn here in terms of what Substrate does to materials and how to use it. So for the most part, the materials, it converted them in a way where it's going to behave like they used to, but now I can also create Substrate materials. So that's nice. Nanite Foliage and Skinning experimental. Even though it's experimental, everybody is experimenting with this. It was shown off in the Witcher demo. So there's multiple levels to this feature here. The first one is assembling trees with instanced pieces. Like each branch is an instance that's attached to the larger trunk. And these assemblies that they're called are developed, I believe, in Houdini. I believe they call them recipes, and you bring in that recipe and then you have a nanite assembly where you can adjust the branches and a lot of parameters to create a custom looking tree. There's already some tutorials out there about it, but creating your own assets in Blender or something will be a little tricky still right now, because it needs the correct data from like a JSON file or something to create the assembly properly. And then the new trees also are skeletal based. They have a skeleton. So it'd be way too much work to try to convert all my trees to this new Nanite Foliage skinning system. However, what I am able to take advantage of immediately is the voxelization of Nanite Foliage. So what I had to do for that, I believe there was a plugin I had to enable since it is experimental. And then in the asset with shape preservation, it was at preserve area. Now I changed it to voxelize, and I left all the other settings default. So now they are voxelized, and I believe performance will be a little bit better. And the visual fidelity is still, you can't even see the voxels. It just seems to work right out of the box. So I'm pretty happy with that. And even though it is still experimental, I did enable it. It's one of the things I wanted to try, because I do have a lot of trees in my environments. So, and there hasn't been any hiccups so far with it. So it's just one of those things. Hopefully it will be a benefit and not hurt anything. So that's a big feature and beneficial for open world, large world type games like mine. So definitely worth trying. The first person rendering now takes advantage of Nanite and other things. So I guess that's good for first person games. So SMAA looks to be good for mobile environments. It's high performance. The difference with this anti-aliasing method is it's not an upscaler. It's just anti-aliasing. It is experimental. So anti-aliasing and upscaling methods, everybody has their own opinion, whether to upscale, whether to not, but at least giving the different methods for that, having a high performance one seems like a nice thing. I definitely want to have an option to use this for my game, and I'll see how it looks. Maybe it'll be a good trade-off. It'll have good performance, and if upscaling's not needed, then just having this anti-aliasing method that has high performance and stuff could be a good option for some systems. Character animation, we have motion matching. This is a chooser integration, I guess a way for it to choose the animation it's going to play. All this animating stuff and ways to modify the skeletal mesh directly in the editor. Always appreciated. It just makes workflows faster. This does stuff with the blend shapes. It's hard dealing with lens shapes, from like a third-party program and then importing them into the software, and there's not really a way to do much with them after that. So being able to edit stuff directly in the engine is great. Control rig is a very powerful feature in the engine, and just adding more physical based stuff is always nice. This looks really cool. Having some real-time physical effects like this looks great. Dependency view, that visualizations like this help with developing this stuff. Control rig is super powerful. It can be very time consuming to create and set up, just like anything. So I am not going full bore on it in my game. I try to just use and do what I need to do and then move on. This is more control rig, full body IK, very awesome. Should be great for procedural animation and stuff like that. Foot contact to make the characters feel grounded, always a challenge. So anything that helps that is wonderful. Spatially aware retargeting This is when retargeting animations from different sized characters. Always a bit of a challenge to make the animations look right. So this is very cool. It's experimental. This is probably aimed at like role-playing games, open world games, or things with lots of varied humanoid creatures, because the animations would be similar, but you have like ogres and orcs and humans and elves and many different body styles, but you want similar animations. Sequence validator. So I've not tried this yet, but I have tons of sequences in my game. So the goal was to check this out and see what it says about some of my sequences, see if I have issues. Curves. Easy way to create curves with little checkboxes. Seems like a nice quality of life thing. It's just a little easier as a starting point. So this is nice. Dataless mutable. Seems like something that would be good for games as a service, online games where you can change parameters, send players an update. You can send out smaller packages of data to give players a new style or features or who knows what. Definitely seems interesting. Selection sets. This is a way to create sets of selections while animating. Like you select the certain types of bones or effectors or something, and you don't have to keep selecting those same few to try to animate them quickly. You can basically create bookmarks of types of things you're selecting so that you can animate much faster. It'll just speed up the process instead of trying to select it within the skeleton, the bones, or whatever, and always having to find it. Just that few seconds of speed up can actually be a big difference in how long it takes to animate something. Some quality of life for animation mode. Any quality of life is appreciated. They just want more animation done in engine, which I'm all for. I've created a tutorial on animating in engine. I do support it when it makes sense. It's very powerful and flexible and speeds up the process quite a bit. I'm all for that stuff. MetaHuman Creator supports Linux and Mac OS. Congrats to them. MetaHuman Creator fits more body styles now. MetaHumans are great for trying to flesh out cities or big worlds. Having just more ways to create varied looking humans is appreciated. Also great for cinematics and a lot of varied purposes for MetaHumans. It's a great way to populate worlds with a lot of different humans. Hair grooms and having them directable in engine. This is a huge feature. Hair is something that one of those things that's always been a challenge because it has physics and having the grooms. If you're not experienced with creating grooms, then it's a challenge to get something that suits your game or character. Being able to direct the grooms, especially in like a sequence, in a cinematic, this is great and has been needed, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to appreciate this. Hair is a very important part of a character. A character, you can have the same looking face and body style, but you just change the hair and you have a whole new character for the most part. Changes the whole visual of a character, the silhouette and everything. And then, of course, it's still more performant to use mesh-based hair. It really just depends on your type of game. More groom tools for Houdini. Houdini is not a software I've used or learned, so I'm not exactly sure. Out of my zone of expertise right now. Rig Mapper, this is for map two different rigs together, like the bone structure and stuff, so that you can have a custom skeleton and the metahuman skeleton, and so that when you do like facial captures or other animations, you can have the custom skeleton animate in a way similar to the metahuman skeleton. Custom HLODs. So I use HLODs in my game. HLODs allow you to get that great looking vista in the distance without having to stream in the entire map. So it's more for large maps, large open worlds, the world partition system. If your game does not use these systems or have maps that large, then you do not use HLODs. But for games that do, being able to generate a custom HLOD and import that just adds an additional level of flexibility. It may be something I take advantage of in the future because there are times when I feel the HLOD builder does not exactly give me what I'm looking for, or maybe I want to enhance the HLOD further and add stuff that's not even in the level at all, and I could just do it in an external program and import it as a custom HLOD. I'm sure there's a lot of options and flexibility with this custom HLODs feature. It's just thinking outside the box and figuring out the best way to utilize it. PCG is just such a huge thing that it's a lot to go over. I think I'll skim through it pretty quickly, but in the grand scheme of things, it is now production ready. It's out of beta. PCG is very helpful, especially for large open world games like mine. So I am taking advantage of it as much as I can. So that this just looks great. Procedural vegetation editor. I believe this is part of the nanite vegetation stuff I was going over before. This takes like a recipe, and then from there, this isn't exactly using PCG. The graph looks like a PCG graph, but this is a different type of graph. It's a procedural vegetation graph, and creating trees with the Houdini recipes from like a JSON file or something. You can create different trees, but using the same recipe. So that's pretty cool. Workflows, a PCG feature that just makes things a little quicker. Custom data types. Now, if the need is there, create custom data types for PCG. Another data type for PCG, Polygon 2D, was added. Would have been a custom data type, but they decided to add it as an engine feature. Fast geometry is something I've enabled in my project. Any improvements to it are great. In previous versions, I believe FastGeo is still experimental or beta. It may still be experimental. Why I have FastGeo enabled is with my character flies through the world super fast. The goal and the hope is that FastGeo doesn't hitch as much. It's definitely a challenge with my game having a very fast moving character. More nodes, so a lot more nodes. Looks like they have to do with splines, a lot of spline stuff, which PCG, I use splines even outside of PCG. Splines are an amazing thing to use. I see the power of PCG with splines outlining, and it creates all these trees within the spline area. All of this is just wonderful. More nodes to support splines and just go wild with it. PCG with Python, that could be great for some people. Developer iteration, incremental cooking, great for large teams or projects where you want to iterate fast. MSVC 14.44. This is actually something I updated to while building my project for the new engine version. I updated Visual Studio. I guess that's good. Not really experienced too much with that stuff, but I just updated it because it gave me a little warning saying it supports it, blah, 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 and I did it. So if you're building for multiple platforms, and again, like it's automated, you're in a studio that does builds frequently, hourly, daily, whatever, you can track down which builds fail and stuff like that. It's good for large studios, teams, stuff like that. Audio insights looks like a nice interface to tell like what sounds are being played, and it's like Unreal Insights, but this is audio based to get a better idea of what's being done on the audio side of things. Certainly needed. Audio is one of those black holes that nobody ever wants to go down, but it's significant in enhancing your game. Audio is certainly an important factor. I'm not using meta sounds at the moment, but it would be great to do so. Like sounds are something I save more towards the end. This way I know what to build sounds for. Maybe meta sounds will be taken advantage of in the future. The subtitle plugin is something I wish I had back when I started my project. Something I spend a lot of time developing a bespoke method of doing them. So I'm keeping on with my current method, but having subtitles drag drop in a sequence like this and based on the sound waves, this is awesome, and I will definitely use it in future projects. I'm just too far along in mine to switch over now. audio waveform editor. I can see where making like a little adjustments in editor will speed up the flow. This is more meta sound stuff, so a little out of my expertise at the moment. Audio Tools sample seems highly recommended for anybody that wants to start working with Unreal Audio technology, as it says right here. So there is a sample available. That's good. Mobile renderer. I'm intending to make my game available on Steam Deck. I don't know if mobile render is specifically for like Android, iOS. I feel Switch and Steam Deck fall into this category since they are mobile. So it's one of those things I'm keeping my eye on. So there are some things here that are just outside my experience, such as stereo layer, OpenXR, stuff like that. I'm just going to skip past. Motion design is something not really being used for games. Motion design is more for your real-time studio productions, sporting events. You get the overlays and things like that. Not really a game design category. Production rendering pipeline. So this is rendering out like cinematics and stuff, which I do and will do, especially hopefully creating my trailer soon. I want to render out the footage, put it in an editing software, different formats, file naming, metadata. Helpful to some people. For me, I'm just going to render it out and put it in editing software and create a trailer. But USD, a scene description format that's growing across the industry. So if you use USD files, that's great. FBX level import. Importing FBX files, now more options and features involved when importing data from FBX files. We'll see how that plays out. AI assistant. This is a big one. Everything has AI now. Instead of like having a different AI open on another monitor and you ask it questions, now it's built into the editor. It is experimental. It's not something we didn't have before. You just had to open it up on a different screen. I use all kinds of help when I can. I'll search it, find help on Reddit, the forums. I'll ask AI. I guess my biggest hang up with AI Assistant is what model is it using? How knowledgeable is it? How does it compare to some of the bigger AI models on the market? Like, do I want to use it in editor, or should I just keep another browser tab open and use one of the other models? I think they had to put it in here because that's what everybody's doing and they want to advertise that they have AI assistant. We'll see. Okay, they changed the home screen with the engine. I never even see the home screen because when I open my project, I just click my project file and it opens it directly. So I guess this is helpful to new people to the engine, just get acclimated. Orthographic clipping, the cars remain there while the buildings are, clipping at a desired level. Save and delete, it's one of those things. It's always been a pain to delete stuff. Savings hasn't been too much of an issue, but one of the things, I don't believe they mention it here, is but I did see a tech talk on 5.7 Control S, which saves files. It's just a Windows standard feature. I guess it works better now in Unreal 5.7. They were just saying in any asset what you have open, just Control S and it will save it. I didn't even know that it was an issue before, but I guess Control S works a lot better now in Engine. Regarding deleting, I'm not exactly sure how it's better, but if it's better, it's better. Oh, here's the Control S I was just talking about. Improve save asset interactions. So you no longer need to click in the viewport or switch back to the content browser. So you can do it in any window, which is what I just did. I'm hitting Control S and it's saving just my tree asset. The way I am accustomed to using the engine, and I always just click this button down here to save everything, I'm still just probably going to keep hitting this button just to know that every asset that I've touched is saved. But that's me. Duplicating stuff in blueprints is a pain in the neck. However, this example here, I do not like this example because I believe, in my opinion, this should be like a packed level instance or something like that. In my cases, I create like these things over here. This is all an instanced level type thing. So if I want to edit it, now I can edit the individual asset. It's not a blueprint. It's just more efficient doing it this way. Then you can instance the assets easier. You just like a right click on the thing and instance the assets. And so once you create like a little scene in your map, you just go to actor and you create a level instance or a packed level actor. The packed level actor, it creates the blueprint with the level instance. And then when you edit the level instance, you right click it and regenerate the blueprint actor, and it automatically creates like the instant static meshes and stuff. So there's two options here, and they're both useful in their own ways. So that's the way I would like to do it. Instead of having all these static meshes in a blueprint. I went down this road before and did not like it at all. It's hard to maintain, hard to edit, customize, hard to design. So not my cup of tea. Frameworks. So I am using some state trees, and I think state trees are super powerful. So having a rewinder and to be able to debug and figure things out, that's great. The update to 5.7 hasn't broken any of my state trees that I know of so far. I do think state trees are a powerful way to go about a lot of different things. So I'm excited for all new features and quality of life stuff they bring to them. Looks like there's optimizations, memory optimizations. I believe they did something with the tick, make them more optimized. The mass system is for like a lot of entities in your world. I'm not using mass entity for my current project. It is something I hope to use in the future. They've been advertising it since the Matrix demo, but it's not easy to get into without a lot of C++ knowledge. There's some communities out there dedicated to helping each other and learning mass. Navlinks, this is pretty cool. So this is like a navigation mesh, and these are each pieces of a navigation mesh on top of like these blocks, and obviously an NPC can't walk from one to the other because there's a gap in the middle, as well as on the floor is a navigation mesh. So now they have these jump configurations where you can tell your NPCs, your AI, that it can jump from here to here, here to here, off these platforms onto the other platforms or the floor. Just a way to have your AI traverse different types of terrain more intelligently without like having this like loop where they run around this object and they can't get on top of it. You can see there's like a jump up, a jump down. Definitely great for AI and navigation. More state tree, quality of life features. And I just touched on the mass entity system, more memory efficiency, system stability. And then Iris, this is one of those things that just nobody is talking about right now, but this is a networking solution to create super large multiplayer worlds. Probably is going to be used for the metaverse and any MMOs that are being created in Unreal. So it's out of experimental and it's in beta right now. And what Iris is doing is it's basically a way for the network, the back-end network, to talk to each other, where you have like a server and then it's connected to another server, and then that server might have 100 clients on it, but then those 100 clients talk to the child server, and then the child server talks to the parent server. It's like this big new system to network your back end together so that you can have thousands of clients all in the same world and seeing each other and interacting with each other. That's an exciting feature that's just kind of hidden away. Nobody's really talking about it. Media viewer, this has been a 3D engine feature since the beginning of time, and now Unreal Engine's bringing it to their engine. Chaos is one of those things. Needs a lot of finessing to get the performance out of it. So the first thing, usually every time Chaos is on here, it has to do with better performance. So let's see. So optimize for performance. So they keep saying it's optimized for performance. Hopefully that's the case, because you got to be careful using it. It can really tank a project. I am using some chaos destruction in limited areas, and it seems to work well for my use case. There's chaos destruction, chaos cloth, chaos hair, chaos caching, chaos fluids, all using chaos core. And chaos core itself, performance, and then quality of life. Chaos core, the performance should make everything a little faster. And then with cloth optimizations. So in my project, I'm not using chaos cloth, but it definitely a useful thing for characters with flowing cloth. It's always been tough to use, and it takes time to get it to look right. There was even a little bit of cloth demo in the Witcher demo, which was in the 5.6 release. Even for the Witcher, doing Ciri's cloak, they design it a certain way so it falls off her back the right way, and nothing's plug and play. You still have to design things the right way for it to look right and work correctly. It's one of those time-consuming things, but the payoff is high if you get it to look right. Like Ciri's cloak in the Witcher demo stood out as a pretty amazing looking thing, so can be worth the time for sure. Chaos caching is something I've been waiting to mature more and more over time, because I would like to cache some destruction and play them in a sequence, and I've done it and then things break, and all this has to do with the caching system. For a while, I thought they weren't even working on it and making it better. So I might have to try to re-implement some of the things I had worked on in the past and see if I can finally do some of the more exciting things I wanted to do. Destruct something, save it as a chaos cache, and then when the time is right in a cinematic, or if the player triggers something, you can play the cached copy of the destruction, which is more performant than doing it in real time. Oh, chaos hair, more with the hair and groom stuff. Definitely an advanced feature. I'm not going to dive into that right now. It seems fairly new. There's a lot of fluid plugins on the marketplace, and I'm not sure how this compares to some of those, so it could be worth looking into if you have a rafting game or something like that. Niagara Nanite Renderer. I actually just enabled this for my project, so I can show what I did. So I have a mesh. This is a static mesh with a material that is animating it. Enabled Nanite for it. Static mesh with a material, and it's using Nanite. I just turned on the Nanite in 5.7. And then I have this particle. If I hit play, I have these static meshes being spawned by a particle system. So now we can see these particles are now Nanite. And when there's thousands of them on the screen, hundreds or thousands, that should help, since my game is, for the most part, all Nanite. And one thing I didn't notice were these birds could probably be turned into Nanite as well. But with that, the only thing I had to do to turn this on was I had to first enable a plugin. So Nanite, Niagara Nanite, it is experimental. It adds a new renderer for rendering Nanite geometry. Instead of a mesh renderer, that plugin gives you a Nanite renderer, and it's almost the same features, except it doesn't have some like locked axis and maybe some other things. It's still experimental. It's still lacking features. It just has like the bare minimal. It doesn't have a facing mode. I hope they add a facing mode to this renderer, because right now the particles, they all face the same direction, whereas in the mesh renderer, they all face the direction of their velocity. So it's more random. I was a little disappointed that there's no like facing mode. Hopefully in a future update, it becomes more feature rich. Again, it's experimental. I'll just leave it on for now. And I gave myself a note for future production to, in a future engine version, check for the facing mode and fix that. But I figure I'll give it a try for now, just because why not? When you have a lot of static meshes being generated from Niagara, that could be helpful. Virtual production. Similar to motion design, virtual production since it's not really game applicable, I will skip this section. I guess the only game applicable things might be live link, mocap, a live link, so that you can get some animations to use in your game seems to be the main thing. But we're at the end of the 5.7 roadmap here. Overall, with regard to brand new features, it's we don't have the super exciting announcements, but we do have a lot of cool, like the tree skinning and voxelization stuff was the biggest thing. And then there's like Substrate, you can turn that on. Performance is the biggest thing. The engine just feels great. Updating from 5.6 to 5.7 went so smooth and seamless that I highly recommend it. It just feels super stable and fast. You can just tell it's not as sluggish as before. It's an excellent update, an excellent version. Some things that were announced in 5.6, which we did not see in 5.7, was much to do with the animation framework system and more of the multi-threading capabilities that they've been adding on. I believe a lot of that's still happening, behind the scenes. They're just enhancing, improving in every way they can, but it wasn't announced in their roadmap. So that'll be it.